Casper.com has created an outrageously comfortable mattress that you can try risk-free for 100 nights. Don't love it? They'll pick it up in-home and refund everything. Go to Casper.com and use code Colin for $50 towards the purchase of your mattress.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Simulcast on ESPNU, baby. Today, tomorrow, and Friday, we are back. After last week off and yesterday traveling, a bumpy flight into Los Angeles last night. Los Angeles, stormy weather, little snow in the higher elevations. They desperately need rain and snow, so it's actually great news for Southern California, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here. Tomorrow, we'll be live out in Pasadena, Florida State, Oregon. Tomorrow is going to be the biggest college football day, in my opinion, ever. You're going to get massive television ratings. The playoff begins in earnest tomorrow. Very exciting. So, not that it's a New Year's resolution, but one of the things I've always tried to do, and I've told this story before, so I'll shorten it, but years and years ago, I got out of college. My first job was in Vegas, and I talked about this story in my book, and I met this he was from Texas or Arkansas, and he just sold a bunch of radio television stations. And he looked like he had money, but he looked like he'd earned it. I mean, he wasn't like a 28-year-old kid, a trust fund kid. He was like 55, 60 years old, kind of weathered, had a nice watch, which was worth at the time more than everything I owned combined. And I sat down at a bar at the Union Plaza in Vegas. And I've always been, my mom said this when I was a kid, I always kind of like hanging around older people and kind of seeking wisdom and advice. And I asked him, can I get any advice? And he said, kid, the fact that you're seeking advice at 22, you're going to be okay. And then I kept pressuring him. And he said, all right, here it is. Celebrate other people's success. Resent money, you'll never make it. Resent success, you'll never achieve it. Be happy for other people. It's just a better life. You'll live longer. And a lot of Michigan fans, I was just at a hotel in Florida, and I don't know why, it was full of Michigan fans. And they were all coming up to me, what do you think? I think they wanted me to say, I didn't think it happened. Stinks. I'm happy because they're happy. This is great for Michigan fans. Did you hear the press conference yesterday? Did you hear the media? The crusty media was giddy. It was like the starving homeless dude. Jim Harbaugh gave him a cracker. I mean, listen to Jim Harbaugh's and listen to the reaction from the media. Let's start with this one.
And I don't know if anybody saw me trip on the way in. Did anybody see that? A lesser athlete would have gone down.
They're laughing. I mean, honestly, at one point, I think he took a commercial break. It sounded like a laugh track. Play another.
As a college, somebody asked me if I was going to come to Ann Arbor and see the Messiah. I'm wondering how comfortable or uncomfortable you are with this perception that you're the savior of Michigan football.
I'm not comfortable with that at all. As I said.
Funny! Jim Harbaugh's funny! This press conference was held in front of a live studio audience. He went at it again.
How will you be able to sell this program?
Were you that young Michigan Daily reporter that was at the airport last night?
No, that was not
me. Where's that young man? That was you. Heck of a job. Heck of a job.
We're not adding that, by the way. That's the media. They're laughing. They're giddy. They're happy. Be happy for Michigan. They're so beaten down. They've been so irrelevant. Ohio State, their arch rival, has owned them for so many years. You got to be happy for Michigan. I mean, listen. Maybe it's the hours and the pressure cooker of the NFL. Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh, great coaches. Maybe they see college football as a better quality of life. You don't have to win now. You control the players. It's a smaller town life for your family. And I think there are industries out there like politics. How many lawyers have you met who got out of it? How many lawyers, law degree guys have you met that said, I want to go to a smaller firm? I seriously, I don't need to be a partner. I just want to go to a smaller firm and enjoy my life. I think the NFL creates that kind of pressure. In fact, I saw a study yesterday that 50% of fans said they don't expect him to win until year 3 or 4. 50%! You don't get that in the NFL. 50%! That's a traditional football power. They'll win before then. But in the end, I'm happy for Michigan. Michigan matters. You know, in college you win, you're revered. In the NFL you win as a coach. What's next? Lots of players prefer the college experience over the NFL, and they're not even getting paid. So I think college football, now that it pays what the NFL mostly does, I think it's a great day for Michigan. I'm happy. If you listen to that press conference, we did not pipe in that laugh track. It sounds, play the last one again. It sounds like it's recorded in front of a live studio audience.
How will you be able to sell this program?
Were you that young Michigan Daily reporter that was at the airport last night?
No, that
was not. Where's that young man? That was you. Heck of a job. Heck of a job.
I mean, you got to be happy for Michigan. You got to be happy for people. Even if you're a Buckeye fan, you got to be happy for them. They've been so miserable. When the media is laughing like that, forget the fans. Forget the frat boys. When the media is laughing like that, you can tell. That is a joyous human experience. Yes, it is. So here we go with the NFL playoffs. And I don't know where our guys got this morning, but I think it's fascinating. It showed all the quarterbacks in the playoffs. They gave me this script. And here's their records against the spread. Tom Brady, only 9-14. Peyton Manning, 10-10. You want to know the two guys who have the best winning percentage against the spread in the playoffs? They're the two underrated guys. They're the two guys even Vegas says, not really sure. Joe Flacco's 9-4. Russell Wilson's 4-1. Combined, two guys who I've always thought are underrated are 13-5 against the spread. I like Flacco, always have. Durable, big arm, never afraid, physical confidence, better feet than people think. But I had a conversation 2 days ago with a fan. And I said, in my opinion, Russell Wilson is the most underrated American pro athlete today. The great Pete Carroll, fired a couple times as a head coach, goes to Seattle. 7-9, had Matt Flynn. Pete Carroll, in his third opportunity to coach in the NFL, was 14-18. He gave Russell Wilson the football. You know what he is since then? 40-13. 75%. And the thing about Russell Wilson, he's an outlier. And what's interesting, outlier meaning he's not typical. So don't try to go in the draft and find the next Russell Wilson. They don't exist. They're once every 15 years. Most of the time, you don't shrewdly find the outlier. They find you. Everybody started comparing Johnny Manziel. Okay, that 5'11 guy works. This 5'11 guy will work. Not even close. And what happens once an outlier happens, the domino effect, everybody tries to duplicate it. And the truth is, GMs never find the outlier. The outlier finds you. Nobody thought Russell Wilson would be this good. Our society's filled with outliers. Jay-Z, drug dealer, came from the Marcy projects. You would never say, who's going to build the biggest empire in music? How about a drug dealer in the projects? He's an outlier. LeBron James, chaotic childhood. Let's go and find the number one leader in the NBA, maybe in the last decade. Let's go to a kid with no dad, mom unreliable, lived in 7 places as a kid. All outliers prove is there are amazing exceptions in life. They don't prove anything other than there's exceptions. Russell Wilson, stop trying to find the next one. The last one we had like this was Fran Tarkenton. He's 5'11", he scrambles constantly, wins big. Even Greg Cosell, 30 years watching film, struggles to understand how Russell Wilson makes this all work.
I find his improvisation to be almost structured. He's not random. He plays a very controlled, structured game even when he moves, and I think that's a rare trait. I would argue he's almost an outlier. There's not going to be a lot of guys like that.
Isn't it interesting? Joe Flacco and Russell Wilson. Not Manning, not Rodgers, not Brady, not Luck, not Romo, not. Nope. Flacco and Russell Wilson, 13-5 against the spread. Even Vegas doesn't know what to make of them. How about this? They're really, really good. Different, but really, really good.
You're in the Herd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Surprise somebody special with a gift just because from 1-800-Flowers.com. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN for exclusive offers. Have those flowers in my house often, although I haven't been in my house lately. Been on the road a lot in Florida. Now I'm in Los Angeles. Come back home for 3-4 days. Then I'm off to Texas for a week. Then back home for about 10 days. Then off to Phoenix for the Super Bowl. So jacked up. But for the record, the really good bowl games start tonight. Last night, Notre Dame, LSU, pretty good. Not great. I mean, two okay teams. Tonight, the bowl games get really good. Tonight, tomorrow, the next day. If you're a college football fan, next 4 or 5 days are great. I think tomorrow is going to be the biggest day in the history of college football. I think you're going to have record numbers. It's fascinating to me what the college football playoff has done. A couple of things. For the record, the SEC's 4-1. The Pac-12's 4-0. They're 8-1 combined. As I predicted this year, the SEC has the best rosters. The Pac-12's got the best quarterbacks. The two I called out are 8-1 and favored in most of the remaining games. It's not a debate. It's a fact. The SEC's got the best overall rosters. The Pac-12's got very good rosters and is loaded this year with NFL quarterbacks. All right, two things to get to. First of all, Tom Brady spent the last couple of days restructuring his contract to help the Patriots win more games. Now, it should be noted that Johnny Manziel restructured his weekend to get a Rager in Sunday. So they're both restructure guys. But I saw this yesterday. A lot of people are saying because they hate Brady because he's good-looking, he's got a supermodel wife, and he regularly beats everybody's favorite quarterback, Peyton Manning. There's a lot of Brady haters out there. And I was getting a lot of feedback yesterday. This is no way giving up money for Tom Brady. Folks, let me give you the golden rule of life. And I think most of you get this, but a lot of you haters out there, you just don't like Brady, period. If you ever get a divorce, whoever high-fives after the paper's signed is the one that wanted out. Fact, always. Generally, one person's sad, the other's high-fiving their attorney. If they both high-five, they should have gotten a divorce. Whoever high-fives when the papers are signed in a divorce wanted the divorce. When Brady restructured this deal, they were both high-fiving. Belichick and Kraft were high-fiving. So was Brady. It helped both. It created cash flow flexibility for the Patriots. Now they've got more ready cash. Could help with Revis, Devin McCourty, Nate Solder. They both won. We're trying to find a winner and a loser. They both high-fived. They both won. Brady doesn't need the extra money. He's basically betting on himself, but he's going to get some. But too many people are like, this means nothing. Brady is being anointed to a position he doesn't deserve. Peyton Manning's taken every penny he can ever make. Good for him. Brady has not. Part of what makes Brady Brady, he is constantly willing to restructure his deal. Now, it's got to benefit him some. It's not a charity. But Carmelo Anthony's wife is famous and rich, too. He still chased the dollars over the Chicago Bulls. Jay Cutler's wife is famous, too. So this is not the media framing it as Brady's a hero. They both high-fived after this. It is mutually beneficial. the old deal was fully guaranteed. Brady's signing bonus and base salary would have counted against the salary cap if the Patriots cut him in the next 3 years. And you know, it's Belichick will cut. I mean, he will. If Brady next year deteriorates, then the following year, Brady's off the roster. And Tom will probably go somewhere and play out west in California, but he'll be off the roster. So they both high-fived after this. Good to have you. Nice win for Notre Dame last night. We've said this before with Jim Harbaugh getting hired. Harbaugh's going to win big, going to win early. He's going to have to win for the first 2 years with Brady Hoke's players, but I think he will. The Big Ten is the only conference that lets you win a lot of games while you rebuild. Jim Mora had a lot of losses first year or two when he was rebuilding. Nick Saban lost a lot of games in the first 2 years when he was rebuilding. Urban Meyer's yet to lose a Big Ten football game in conference during the regular season as he's rebuilding. The Big Ten allows you to win 10 games as you rebuild. He's going to win. He's going to win early. I don't think they have a special quarterback on campus. He'll go find one. There is a name out there. There is still one quarterback he may be able to pull in the next month. My gut feeling is Harbaugh. I'll just put it this way. Go west, young man, to find your next quarterback. There are quarterbacks out west that have verbally committed that Jim in the next week could talk out of verbally committing. And they're all in California this year. Top 3 quarterbacks in the country in California, 2 others very good. I believe he's going to go hard here in the West for a certain quarterback who's only verbally committed. Now, we've got all sorts of teams now looking for coaches. Obviously, some high-profile teams like the Jets. And one of the names out there is Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator, Bill Parcells' disciple for Arizona. Dan Quinn, Seattle defensive coordinator. Always worries me when the head coach is known for something. Like Pete Carroll's a defensive guy. I'm always a little reluctant then to go get his defensive guy. It's like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. How much is Kirby doing? How much is Nick? I like the idea that Bruce Arians is an offensive guy in Arizona, and their defense is great. That means Bruce is just giving Todd the whole thing. Baby, that's your baby over there. You know, I'm always very, very reluctant to hire the coordinator who's good on the side of the ball the head coach is also really good at. And so Todd Bowles, pretty impressive. Comes from Bill Parcells' stock, basically given the defense, and has done a terrific job. But I'll tell you this, whoever the Jets hire, you got to get a quarterback. I mean, you know, it's like, I always laugh at this stuff. I'm looking at Bill Parcells' coaching tree and Bill Walsh and Marty Schottenheimer this morning. I'll show it, and it's amazing what they've done. But, I mean, let's be honest about this. Bill Parcells succeeded more when he had good quarterbacks. And especially these days, I mean, the difference between Herm Edwards and Pete Carroll, couldn't I argue it's Russell Wilson? Now, to Pete Carroll's credit, he ran through quarterbacks in Seattle. He kept flushing the toilet. There was wisdom in that by Pete Carroll. He could spot guys that weren't going to win big. He kept flushing the toilet in Seattle before he got to Russell Wilson. He had Charlie Whitehurst. Yeah, he flushed the toilet on that. They had Seneca Wallace. They had another flush on that. Tavares Jackson, that's not going to work. Matt Flynn, how about a courtesy flush on that? So, give Pete Carroll credit. He kept flushing them out. But the difference between Herm Edwards and Pete Carroll is Russell Wilson. It's Russell, and nothing against Pete. It's Russell Wilson. So whoever these teams get, that's why Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, Florida State, Oregon quarterbacks, going to be the first 2 guys taken in the draft. I mean, it just doesn't matter. You got to get the guy. Mike Tannenbaum, former Jets general manager. We'll talk about that. How do you know? A lot of Bill Walsh disciples failed. A lot of Parcells disciples haven't worked. Live in L.A., it's The Herd on ESPN Radio.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
The new Simple 6 menu at Subway. 6 subs, 6 meals, just $6 each. Subway, eat fresh. And ESPN Radio also presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options. Pick the price that works for you. We're in Los Angeles today. Tip of the cap. Maybe tip of the butler's cap to American Airlines last night. Bumpy flight into Los Angeles. They gave us a heads up. There was storms in Los Angeles. Best meal I've ever had on a flight last night. Ever. Lox, raw tuna, like beef Wellington. At one point there was champagne on the flight. It was incredible. I've never been on a flight like that. You know, usually it's a box and there's crackers and like an old apple and some chips. And then they gave us warm nuts. What man doesn't love warm nuts? It was fantastic. The chandeliers were beautiful. Tip of the butler's cap. I don't know. Maybe they knew it was going to be bumpy weather into Los Angeles. Yeah, I don't know. That was good. All right, former general manager in the NFL with the Jets, Mike Tannenbaum, joining us in the Herd on ESPN Radio. Okay, you're a former general manager. We got a lot of teams looking for coaches. Take my audience, Mike, through the process of interviewing head coaches. What characteristics do you look for?
Yeah, Colin, I think it's leadership and presence. And in this day and age, you have to go into a program and you have to walk in with credibility and you have to win enough right away, as Coach Parcells would say, to hold the fort. And you have to stand for something, and you want to win enough where you can have credibility and then build your program from there.
With that said, though, look at the difference between Pete Carroll and Herm Edwards. I could argue it's Russell Wilson. In this league now, Mike, doesn't the quarterback now make the coach instead of vice versa?
Yeah, I think Pete's a fascinating study, Colin, from a standpoint that, this is his fourth head coaching job, and every time I think, to his credit, he's evolved and gotten better and learned from his prior experiences. That, coupled with the fact that Russell Wilson was the fifth quarterback that him and John Schneider acquired, which showed a tremendous – I give him a ton of credit. They could have said, hey, we got Matt Flynn, we gave him a big deal, but they systematically kept attacking the position, and they obviously hit on a player that's not only a great player but a great leader. So I give them a ton of credit for their systematic approach to attacking the quarterback position. But, the way they allowed Russell to develop, they didn't put a lot of pressure on him. He can make plays with his feet, and the way they play defense allows them not to put pressure on their passing game.
Yeah, a little like the Steelers initially did for Big Ben. You can help us, you can elevate us, but it's not on your shoulders. Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL general manager. Mike, we get into situations. The Giants, despite a disappointing season, keep their head coach and GM. The Jets do not. Obviously, you have personal insight, but could I argue, and I'll ask Bill Parcells this later, could I not argue the reason the Giants are the Giants and the Jets are the Jets is their ability in crisis and in disappointing years to stay the course?
Well, I think, those two situations are different. And, first starting with the Giants, obviously they've had success with, not only Tom Coughlin, but Jerry Reese, their, talented general manager. And when you look at their season, if Odell Beckham was healthy, arguably, Colin, you could say that could have been a difference in 3 or 4 of their games, especially early in the year when he didn't play. So you would certainly say the arrow's up. You still have a quarterback in his prime. When you look at the Jets situation, they're trying to reset the program. And, I think Geno Smith's an interesting player. Obviously, you have to give him a grade of incomplete. He just played incredibly well against the Dolphins. But, I'm sure the calculus there was much more like, hey, quarterback uncertain, and we're going to start fresh, head coach and GM as well.
If you were a team, you were a bad team, top of the draft, Marcus Mariota at Oregon, Jameis Winston at Florida State, the questions general managers are asking, you have been in that chair, Mike. How much does it concern you that Mariota comes from a system that elevates all the quarterbacks at Oregon?
Yeah, I think you want to ask yourself a couple questions. One, is he built to last? Does he have the physical attributes to withstand 16 games? And he, looks like he's a bigger frame guy than some of these other guys that have come out. And then when you look at the great coaches in the NFL, you're going to try to your player's in the best position to be successful, and why not try to play to his strengths? And then over time, as you mentioned, with a guy like Roethlisberger, let him learn more of the complicated nuances of the passing game. But at least initially, give him his best chance to be successful. Let's face it, John Gruden talks about this all the time on the ESPN broadcast. It's hard to develop a quarterback. 9 weeks in the off-season program, they're not in the building as much. It's going to take some time. If you, let's say, paired him with a guy like Josh McCown in Tampa, if that's what Tampa decides to do, that gives you some short-term and long-term flexibility. So that's I'm sure, an intriguing possibility for them.
What about Jameis Winston's off-field immaturity? How much would that concern you, viewing what we've seen with Johnny Manziel's issues?
Coach Belichick always used to say in the draft room, the two things you're going to have in pro football that you don't have in college football is more time and more money. So let's get guys that really – and what are they going to do with those two things? So let's find out guys that really love football. Those guys come in different shapes and sizes. So I want to find out about Jameis's football character, how hard he's going to work in the off season. Look, guys are going to go out and have fun. That's okay. We all did. And now it's, what are you going to do with more time and more money? How much are you going to invest in yourself to get better? And to me, that is a critical aspect in evaluating Winston.
Gut feeling, Mike. You've been a guy in the rooms in New York with Woody Johnson. Gut feeling. Where do the Jets go for a coach?
It's hard to say. I think, and they got. Here's what I will say, Colin. Like Ron Wolf, Charlie Casserly, two really good football men. And I'm not really sure if they're going to hire a GM first or a head coach, but I will say this: it's a great opportunity for them. And who's ever going there, they have a great facility. They got a great stadium. They got some really good young players. I don't think the coverage is bare there as people may make it out.
I agree. I think there's real players there. I just don't think they have the quarterback, Mike.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of teams that, well, let's face it, Colin, there's not 32 starting quarterbacks on the planet. So
that's right.
How can you build enough infrastructure around the position, be it offensive line or, pressure players in the front seven, that gives you a chance to have sustainability as you develop the quarterback? And to go back to Seattle, to give them, credit, Colin, again, Russell Wilson was the fifth quarterback that program acquired. So, and clearly they were doing a lot of good things like trading for Marshawn Lynch to keep acquiring good pieces. So when you hit on the quarterback, you become a Super Bowl contender.
Good talking to you, Mike.
Hey, Colin, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Virtually anybody now that hosts a radio show with a following, it's on television, right? It's simulcast. And I'm guilty too. I watch simulcast. I find it fascinating to watch a guy talking to a mic. I do. I just sit there and watch him. I'm like everybody else. I just sit and bounce around. I'll listen to a Boston guy yammer on, or a New York guy. I like it. Especially this time of the year, I'm just sitting watching sports. But they always get upset. Vince will get freaking out because Vince is my producer. He'll freak out now. They're always like really touchy about my Starbucks cup. Hey, keep that out of the shot if you could. Look at Vince is already sweating. Hey, ESPN, Starbucks, it's a company. They sell coffee. It's going to be around for a few years. Who gives a rip if I put that on the air? We got one on our campus. They're always like, hide the Starbucks cup. What? Like people are like, Starbucks? Who's heard of that? It's a coffee chain? It's amazing. I'd never heard of it until Cowherd propped it up on his show. We got a Starbucks office on our campus. I want to drink coffee. I don't want to hide it under a desk. All right. So, Ndamukong Suh, he's earned every ounce of his reputation. But because he hadn't been in trouble for 32 games, when he did that sneaky thing with Aaron Rodgers this past weekend and the NFL suspended him, he went, answered questions directly, and he won his appeal. First, I'm happy. I think without Ndamukong Suh, the Cowboys' offensive line could dominate that football game. They may anyway, but they would without Ndamukong Suh. And I'm rooting for a better game. I like Dallas in the game, but Suh and that defensive front match up very well with Dallas. I think it's a really, really good football game. Not shocked if Detroit won, but I think Dallas will. But according to NFL rules, a player who goes 32 games without a violation is removed from the repeat offender list. And so Ndamukong Suh's history as a repeat offender was never cited in this case. He appealed it and he won it. But here's the funny thing. Outside of Lions fans, we all know the story with Ndamukong Suh. I mean, they'll defend him to the end, but if you watch the video, he didn't purposely step on Aaron Rodgers' ankle. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like he was looking ahead and he was backing up and kind of fell. But once he stepped on it, he knew whose ankle he was on, and he twisted the knife into the ribs. Let's not kid ourselves. Don't be a fanboy. Don't be a sycophant. Don't be a barking seal. You know the story. If you watch Ndamukong Suh, when he steps on that ankle, he knows whose ankle that is. And he just twists and grinds his foot into Aaron Rodgers. Don't be a hack. You know he did that. Watch Aaron Rodgers' reaction. He gets ticked off. You don't get ticked off if somebody steps on you. You don't in the NFL you get ticked off when you think it's cheap, and you know it's cheap. Now, I'd rather see him play. I think makes Dallas-Detroit a really good matchup. But Ndamukong Suh has earned every ounce of his reputation, and only Lion fans are going to defend him. He absolutely knows whose ankle he's on, and there's a reason Aaron Rodgers was ticked off. People step on Aaron Rodgers all the time. He's a quarterback. He's down. You can tell the way he – and, here's Aaron Rodgers.
The other thing I would say is that if you step on something in your everyday life, or if you step on somebody on the field, the first reaction seems to be looking back and maybe apologizing with your hands or pulling your foot back right away. And I'm just not sure that's what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it was dirty, but because he'd been, a good player and stayed away from that stuff, I'm watching it again and again. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is like, come on, ref, give me a break on that. But it's better that he's going to play. We will have an upset this week in the playoffs. I don't really know what to make of Carolina and Arizona. If Arizona had Carson Palmer, I'd love him in the game. They don't. I probably lean Carolina. I think Cincinnati's got much better players throughout most of their roster than Indianapolis, but I like Andrew Luck at home. But we will have an upset. I don't know quite what to make of Denver right now. I had this conversation yesterday with somebody. Peyton Manning's not Peyton Manning of old. And it's getting cold, and it's getting windy, and you saw him at Cincinnati, a game in which I predicted the Bengals would beat Denver outright. He is not the quarterback who you can put a franchise on his shoulder, cold, windy weather outdoors, and carry a team. He's no longer that guy. He's still great at the line of scrimmage. He is physically now limited. He's always been limited mobility-wise. He's limited arm strength. I mean, Greg Cosell loves Peyton Manning. And he was the first guy 2 months ago to say, Peyton Manning's got a below-average NFL arm. I mean, this is Greg Cosell, who is a huge fan of Peyton Manning.
He's playing right now with an arm that's probably below average by NFL standards. His arm is there's not a lot there. It can look bad.
Yeah, so I just don't know what to make of Denver, but they're at home. I really like their roster. They're going to be tough to beat. The other story, and I didn't think it would happen, but it did, and I'm very happy for Michigan, is Jim Harbaugh is the new coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Much like a Nick Saban, he could get an elite NFL job. Jim Harbaugh could get an elite NFL job, but he chose college. Jim's going to make $5 million base. It should be noted that after the first year, the athletic director said, we'll revisit his compensation. He's going to be north of $6 million. That goes a long way in small college towns like Ann Arbor. It doesn't go as far in the Bay Area. I think one of the things, and I'm not saying there's not pressure at the college level, but there was a poll, 230,000 people voted in this poll at ESPN. How quickly will Jim Harbaugh turn Michigan into a college football playoff contender? 50% said it would take until his third year. And so there's some patience at the college level that you don't always see at the NFL level. Nick Saban, now the NFL's got better players, and overall, you don't have grad assistants in the NFL. You got better coaching in the NFL. And Nick Saban talked about that recently as he's out here and getting ready for a national championship game, setup game with Ohio State, a win in my opinion, then probably Florida State or Oregon. But Saban said the NFL's a greater challenge.
It was always in my mind after I'd spent, I think, 6 years in the NFL and went back to Michigan State as a head coach, then to LSU, that at some point in time in my career that I sort of viewed it as the sort of ultimate challenge to be an NFL head coach.
But here's the thing about being an NFL head coach. You don't have as much power. In college, you don't have an owner. Nick Saban's more powerful than anybody on the Board of Regents or his president or his athletic director. And Nick Saban can go draft or recruit 2 quarterbacks, 3 a year. In the NFL, you get stuck with Blaine Gabbert for a couple years, you're not going to win games. I mean, look at Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland's a mess. Just look at quarterbacks. How many have they had in the last decade? 9? So there is some value. Jim Harbaugh's going to win. He's going to win big. He's going to win early. I always believe take out the first year. You'll notice a difference if the guy is the right guy middle of the second year. You'll just notice a physicality with Harbaugh, an efficiency with Harbaugh. They'll start doing the little things right. He's going to have to win with Brady Hoke's players. But Brady Hoke was a good recruiter. Was he Urban Meyer? No. But he was a good recruiter. And I got some feedback today, some pushback. Well, I mean, come on. Urban Meyer is not rebuilding Ohio State. I've talked to Urban. He's rebuilding Ohio State. That's not my opinion. I mean, that's not to say they were terrible, but you're allowed in the Big Ten to win while you rebuild. Urban had to get more quality players. When he first stepped on that campus, they didn't have a lot of great players. Tressel was an average recruiter. Ohio State recruited Ohio State. And I also think there's some value to some of these guys. Big fish, small pond, control. I get it. I mean, how about a big fish, the big tuna in a big pond? Bill Parcells. He's around the corner. And I always love, every time I talk to Bill, I get smarter. He'll join us next. We're live in L.A. It's The Herd on ESPN Radio.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
Great to have you in. Our number today, 1-888-SAY-ESPN. I'm live in Los Angeles today, bouncing around the nation for the next couple of weeks. Fort Worth next week for the national championship game. I'll be in Arizona, a place I've always loved. The Phoenix, Scottsdale area for the Super Bowl. Today we're in Los Angeles. Tomorrow I'm at Pasadena, outside of the City Hall. A great place to do a radio remote. Stop on by. A little chilly in the morning. Wear a jacket. But then we'll have a great time. Sign books. Stop by outside of City Hall. Let's get to Hall of Famer Bill Parcells. It's The Herd on ESPN Radio. Bill, I was looking at your coaching tree, and you know it. It's remarkable. Todd Bowles, Arizona defensive coordinator, is a disciple. When you look back at some of the guys you've helped, Tom Coughlin, Belichick, they're home runs. Other guys have been good but haven't had the success. So Bill, what's the difference between the A guy, Belichick, and the guy that's good but didn't hit it out of the park? Can you tell who's going to be a star, who's going to work?
Not always. Sometimes the situation won't allow you to succeed. I think there have been a couple of guys that I think are very, very good coaches that got caught in a situation at the time that just didn't let them be successful. On the other hand, sometimes philosophically it's tough to get the organization, when the scouts have been there for a long time, to buy into the kind of personnel that you need for your system. Sometimes that takes a little transition period. But I think those are the things that act as deterrents. The support generally from the organization and sometimes the philosophical integration of a change in philosophy personnel-wise into the organization can act as a deterrent if everybody's not kind of, the term now is buying in.
Bill Parcells, Hall of Famer, joining us, The Herd on ESPN Radio. Bill, it seems increasingly, to add to your point, that, you could make an argument the difference between Herm Edwards and Pete Carroll is Russell Wilson. that if you don't have a playmaker or a game changer at quarterback increasingly in this league, you could be a wonderful coach and end up being on TV as an analyst.
Well, there's no question about that. It's a vital, vital position, and I think what people don't really understand is how few of them there really are. And when you start going to look and you start to enumerate the quarterbacks, I mean, I'm not even talking about the blue chip, the Andrew Lucks, the John Elway. I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about even guys that can just be solid, highly productive players, solid starters for a number of years. It's very difficult to find them. And if you're a team without them and it just coincides with a draft year or a couple of draft years or 4 or 5 draft years where you can't acquire one, it can put you in the basement for a long time.
Bill Parcells joining us. Bill, the Jets, they're looking for a new coach and a GM. The Giants, they keep Jerry Reese and Tom Coughlin. Reese has some so-so first-round picks. Tom has struggled in recent years. Could I argue that the fact that the Giants keep their GM and head coach in sort of a crisis mode and the Jets flush it out and restart is one of the reasons the Giants are the Giants and the Jets are the Jets?
You haven't worked for both organizations. I can tell you they're certainly different in quite a important respect, and that is, the stability at the Giants is and has been far greater. Now, is it stable because they've had more success in general, or is it stable by virtue of the personalities involved? I can't answer that question. But these owners, they come into the league, they're businessmen, their name is on it, it's not going well, they view their fans as their stockholders.
Yep.
Hey, we're going to do something. Here's what we're doing. We're going to try to change to make it better. And I can't say that I blame them because they're doing what they think is in their own best business interest.
Bill, we talked about this last time you were on the show. You're an NFL guy, not a college guy. But between Saban and now Jim Harbaugh, the intensity of the NFL, it has become so magnified. You are a guy, Jimmy Johnson's another, that could have coached for another 5 years. But I look at Saban and I look at Harbaugh, and do you think with the increased money in the NFL, it has become a pressurized environment, and that for some of these guys, they just want to go to the college level, the money's now almost the same, and it's a better quality of life? Could that explain Harbaugh going to Michigan?
Well, I think it's your own personal feeling, Colin. I personally like pro football much better because that's really all you were dealing with was coaching football and involved in the talent acquisition in evaluating players that you knew you were capable of acquiring. The college football with the recruiting, that was something that I didn't enjoy quite as much. But there are certain situations in collegiate football that equate pressure-wise to the NFL. There are some places that do not tolerate even mediocrity for very long. So I think the pressure, the quality of life, I think for guys like us that do these things, I think winning is the only remedy. And if you win, then you enjoy what you're doing. And if you're fighting to win all the time, then you don't enjoy it that much.
Do you remember your last game you coached? The feeling, I think I read a story once, New York Times Magazine, that you were physically ill, that losing took such a toll on you.
The losing lasts so much longer than the gratification of winning becomes, as I got older, winning was more just a relief rather than a feeling of exhilaration. It was just more of a relief, and losing would stay with you longer. And the things that you remembered the most were the negative things, because that's when you beat yourself up. What could have I done differently? What's the one little thing that could have got me over the hump in that game? What would you do over? That's when you get into that little mindset of self-evaluation. That's really what digs at you.
Tom Brady restructured his deal. It's very rare. Now, I know his wife does pretty well on the side, But do you think Bill Belichick realizes how lucky he's been with Brady? Not just the athleticism, the person?
Sure, I think he does. Hey, this is a greater good guy. There's no doubt. I mean, you've got evidence all over the place. He's there for one reason. He wants to win championships. That's what he wants to do. That's the most important thing to him. It's more important than the adulation, the attention, the money. It's more important than anything. And, you know, some of the great ones, Colin, Magic Johnson, and those guys, they're all the same guy. They're all the same guy. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, to Tom Brady. You know, that's what's important to them. And I can't explain why. They just want to keep hanging the banners up in the gym.
Yeah. Bill, always a pleasure. Hope you're enjoying the holidays. Any New Year's resolutions you want to talk about?
No, at my age, you know, you really don't have much to contemplate, you know. So, but now I just would ask that you don't give me any of this poor me syndrome that I had to listen to this week about a freestanding building in some rural deal. I can't take that. I mean, are you on the veranda right now at a four-star hotel looking at the ocean?
Yeah, I am, Bill. I had one day in a rural little radio station in Florida. I whined a little bit. What you're telling me is stop whining. I got a good gig.
You got a pretty good gig. That's right.
Bill, always a pleasure. Happy holidays.
Okay, same to you.
Colin Cowherd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
By the way, I've received several emails because tomorrow the playoff starts in college football. Can I just tell you I totally disagree with the rest of the American media and the rest of America on this thing about wanting more teams in the playoffs? It's perfect. 5 conferences, 4 teams get in, meaning somebody whines and complains by the end of the year. That's what you want. Let's not water it down like college basketball where 65, 67, 68 teams get in. That's why nobody watches college basketball's regular season anymore. Everybody gets in. Duke's in. Kentucky's in. You don't have to watch the games. Louisville's in. Game's over. Arizona's in. Gonzaga's in. You want to have to watch to the last weekend. I don't want 6 teams in. Then every conference gets their champion in. I want arguments. That's what sports is all about. Why are we trying to solve everything? It's not society. It's not like the poverty issue in America or the debt issue where we should be striving to solve those problems. It's hurting ordinary Americans. These are athletes. It's good for radio, TV, talk, argument, conflict. It's fun. Let's put 8 in. Well, then why Alabama? Why does Alabama-Auburn mean anything? If you put 8 in, that doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I disagree with our president. He wants 8 in. I don't. But he's into conflict resolution. I'm not into conflict resolution. I'm into conflict. I don't buy it. That's why sports is fun. Somebody always being left out. This isn't society. I'm not taking a cracker away from a poor kid. I'm just telling TCU, not quite good enough. Sorry. That's what sports is about. We just keep adding layers of playoffs. Wild card this and wild card that. 4 is great. That means somebody gets potentially hosed. But I don't think TCU got hosed. I don't think Baylor got hosed. I think they're both going to lose in the next 36 hours. John, you're in the Herd on ESPN Radio. John, go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Colin, I think you're one of the best morning shows. Hey, I wanted to ask you about Rex Ryan to the 49ers. I think it's a good idea because they have a great defense, and any offense you go to is probably going to be an upgrade.
Well, is he going to get smarter?
He's not going to get smarter. But
okay. Well, because he's got to get smarter. Because the cliches and the resentment toward offense, Rex has a Rex issue. It's not Geno Smith's fault. Rex has got to get smarter.
So he just sucks at offense then.
Yeah, it's kind of an offensive league. Maybe you noticed. Mike Smith just got canned. Rex just got canned. It's an offensive league, brother. You got to get quarterbacks, and if you don't have a great one, you better know how to elevate a really good one. Marvin Lewis has done a really good job with Andy Dalton. So John Harbaugh has done a good job with Joe Flacco, who I like, but a lot of people think is just ordinary. So, I mean, everybody loves Rex because he's like your uncle. You want to have a beer with him. He's funny. He's kind of And every man, I get it, but he was bad situationally. The quarterbacks regressed. He made silly guarantees. He fell into football cliches. So if he's going to get smarter, hire him. But this idea that he's going to move to a different area code and be a different coach, is he an evolver? Pete Carroll's an evolver. If you listen to Pete's spiel, he's an evolver. He's a little Cali hippie evolve guy. Rex isn't. Rex is line in the sand. This is the way we play football. Hit a guy in the mouth. That guy doesn't evolve. Belichick is an evolver. Cerebral, intellectual, learned. Pete Carroll has got kind of a beachy, yoga, Pilates thing going on. That's Pete's personality. So he keeps learning from his mistakes. Good coaches do that. Chip Kelly does that. I think Jason Garrett in Dallas is a smart guy. To me, Rex is line in the sand. This is the way you play football. It's the only way. It's not going to work. So unless he's going to grow up, get smarter, is that area code in the Bay Area going to make him smarter? I mean, Kaepernick is in a funk. Can he elevate Kaepernick? And it's not that I don't like Rex. It's funny. I had a Mike Tannenbaum, former Jets GM. I had him on earlier, and I said, you've been in this position. There's all these guys. Even some of them are like Bill Belichick disciples. What do you look for in a new NFL head coach?
I think the commonality of all these great ones is leadership and presence. And in this day and age, you have to go into a program, and you have to walk in with credibility, and you have to win enough right away, as Coach Parcells would say, to hold the fort. And you have to stand for something, and you want to win enough where you can have credibility and then build your program from there.
And I think Harbaugh's a better coach than Rex Ryan, and I think players would figure that out pretty quick. I'll tell you, you know what's really interesting? You look at some of these guys right now, look at the teams looking for coaches, and look at the guys. There are no guarantees. You don't know if Todd Bowles is going to work. You don't know. Could. You don't know. I mean, you to be honest, you never really know. you really don't. Until a guy proves it, you're kind of guessing. There have been guys, a lot of people thought Josh McDaniels, Belichick's guy went to Denver. A lot of people were in on him. Everybody loved him. He thought Tebow was going to be a star. A lot of people like Joel Philbin down in Miami. But I read Omar Kelly. He's a columnist down there. His sources tell him players don't buy him. I don't know that, but he follows the team. So, it's just tough. I've always been a big believer, hire somebody who's been a head coach. I'm a big believer in that. Florida went out and got Jim McElwain. He proved it at Colorado State. Will Muschamp, I never bought into Will Muschamp to Florida. It's too big of a job for a guy that's never been a head coach. Too big of a job. Will Muschamp should have gone from Texas defensive coordinator to Texas Tech. But you can't go from coordinator to national powerhouse. Come on now. It's a roll of the dice to begin with, but that's a national power jump. That's why Harbaugh guaranteed home run at Michigan. Urban Meyer, Nick Saban guaranteed home runs. Brian Kelly, Notre Dame, great hire. But you really, you just don't know. You never do. A lot of Bill Walsh and Parcells and Marty Schottenheimer guys, high IQs, bombed. They just didn't have that it thing.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.